Hello, everybody. I'm Patricia Walls from the Enlightened Path podcast, and I'm excited to have today Cindie Ambar. Cindie is an animal communicator, an energy healer, and also an animal advocate. She's been trained in several modalities, and she left a high-paying job in Silicon Valley to pursue her life's purpose in supporting animals and their humans to help them heal themselves and the planet. I'm a little hoarse today. I've been working outside, so I'm pretty sure it's my allergies. So excuse my gravelly voice. So she works with animals of all kinds all over the world, both wild and domestic. She has extensive experience working with shelters, sanctuary, and other animals that have been traumatized. She provides pro bono services to several horse sanctuaries, a dog sanctuary, and a big cat sanctuary in South Africa. And she's here today to share with us about animals, who they really are, who they really want to be, or what they really want, as well as discussing the differences in healing work between animals and humans, and her approach to working with the various challenges that animals face. So thank you very much, Cindie, for coming on. Animal communication is near and dear to my heart. For me, being an intuitive, communicating with humans, animals, elements, extraterrestrials, spirits, it's all the same thing for me. There are differences, and I'm sure that you'll talk about that. There are differences in how we receive from them, but to me, it's just a matter of listening to the heart. So tell us, what do you want to share with us today?
Sure. Well, first of all, I would say what you said, listening with the heart is right on. Most of us could communicate with animals as children, and we were kind of either, shamed out of it. No, that little pink crocodile is not your friend, or, whatever, or just, with everybody not around us not believing that was true. We have a tendency to shut it down, but it's really a still mind and an open heart are the basics, beginning to receive messages from animals. And if you don't have a meditation practice, just beginning that to be able to be in a state of receptivity is something powerful that you can do to kind of jumpstart yourself. Yeah, I have a lot to say about animals. One of the things that's very important with me to share is for people to really understand who animals are. Yes, they're cute. Yes, they're sweet. Yes, they're, loving and, filled with unconditional love, but, they are sacred, sentient beings. They are angels, and I might cry because I get so emotional about this, but they are angels of the highest order. So they come to this planet and into our lives to support us with our life's purpose. They have life's purposes all of their own. And they are also here to heal the planet. It's just amazing. They know everything that's going on in the world. They knew about COVID. They know that a better time is coming. They're just the most profoundly wise, most intelligent, incredibly perceptive beings that I have ever had an opportunity of working with. And I work with people as well. And I love my people clients. But animals, there's definitely a special magic about animals.
I wanted to mention when I was learning about animal communication, my camera, one of the things that was pointed out during the class, actually, one of the questions, she gave us a list of questions to ask the animal in our session. And one of the questions was, how can we help you? Right? Are there any supplements? Are there any special foods that we need to be providing for you that you require? And she was telling us, and you already know this, but just in case it wasn't something that you were going to share, she was, and so if there was a sick animal, we could ask that animal could tell us what they needed to heal. They knew what they needed to heal, and sometimes just didn't have access to it, right? Because nowadays they're in our house or they're in our yard and they can't go and forage in the wild for what they really need sometimes. And so you can even ask them, what is it that you would need in order to balance yourself? And I don't do animal communication so much anymore. My life has kind of taken off in different directions, but I remember doing that when I was doing readings and helping people. I remember asking the animal, what is it that I can provide for you, or your human can provide for you that would help you to heal. So
yeah, they're very wise about that. And also, follow-up question is, how else can your person support you in
right.
well? And a lot of times animals do take on their people stuff. And one thing that I like to tell people when they're going through something and they're noticing changes in their animal, and I make a point of saying this for every animal. I work with so many animals. The human has diabetes, the animal has diabetes, So actually some of their advice is probably healing for their humans as well. But it's very important to let animals know what's happening. Like, you're feeling really sad. Well, you can explain, well, I'm feeling sad, but it's about this. And animals overhear bits and pieces of conversations and put their own stories together. So but one of the most powerful things you can do with an animal companion, if you think they're taking on your stuff, is to say, um you know is just to let them know, yes, I'm going through this, I'm handling this, whatever, but the most important thing that you can do for me is to be well. Because when you're ill, it makes things more difficult to me. That would make me really sad, whatever that is. But I cannot tell you, because I feel what's going on in the animal's body too. As soon as I say this, it's a huge sense of relief. And it's helpful to repeat it a number of times until they really get the idea. And that just brings to mind one of the other questions we were going to discuss, which is, what does my animal companion know about me? Absolutely everything. They know what you're saying, they understand what you're thinking. Oftentimes they've shared past lives with you and know all about that. And you might be in Europe and your animal's here in Texas, but they still know. And in fact, when I first got my cat Althea, and by the way, I named her Gabby, and she told me her name was Althea, I looked at
Right.
healer in Greek. And
Right.
helps me with my healing work. But the cat before her, Pookie, was really jealous of my relationships with horses. And so there's a barn I pass by all the time, and the horses just always look kind of downtrodden there, for lack of a better word. So when I drive by, and it's just a few miles from my house, I always yell out, "You're beautiful, I love you." And or yell, whatever, think that to them. And about a month or two after I first brought her home, I heard, Pookie told me about this. And she went on to tell me all this stuff about, my obsession with horses and all this other stuff. So, even down the road from her, she was picking up what I am doing. And the other thing, that I talked a bit about a few minutes ago is that, if you're going on a trip, if your family's going to be moving, if there's going to be some other change in the animal's life, best to sit down with them and explain what's happening, when their life will be the same or different, because that causes a great deal of stress. Because again, I remember the first animal communication class I took, the cat thought something horrible was going to happen. And when I related to her person, she said, oh, so what I got was correct, but the animal's interpretation of it, because the animal didn't have all the details, was that this horrific thing was happening. So talk to your animals, even if you don't know, what they're saying. They will understand absolutely everything you say.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I have the smartest four-legged dog. I mean, four-legged, but it's a dog. He is just so smart. He amazes me all the time. I'll say things to him that you wouldn't think he would understand. Like I'll say, where's your ball? And he'll start looking around for it. And I'll say, you left it in the bedroom. And he will take off for the bedroom and go get his ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're so smart.
There are no
Yeah.
secrets from animal. My animal communication mentor once had a cat tell her he started peeing on all the husband's stuff. And he'd previously been fine with the husband. When she did the communication session, he said he's been spending time with other women and I can smell it on his clothes.
Whoa.
Yeah, and as an animal communicator, you're obligated to share that information. You have to honor with the animals. And, of course, you preface it by, I don't know if this resonates with you, but anyway, it turns out this woman was very suspicious he was having an affair, and that confirmed all her suspicions. So, yeah, they even know what family members are doing outside of the household.
Right.
So, yeah,
It's crazy. They are amazing beings. They really are. Yeah. So tell us how you got into this line of work. How did you get interested in it?
I had to get hit over the head, literally. I was working at this, high pressure, high paying job, and bonked my head on the side of the car, just getting out of the car. And I had a major concussion and I wasn't recovering, and I was scared to death. I thought I was never going to be normal again. And a friend of mine said, hey, you should see this healer friend that I know. And her name, oh, I don't remember what her name was. But anyway, after one session, I immediately felt better. And so I took a theta healing class because that's what she taught. But then I took a Reiki class, and in the Reiki class, they talked about being an animal magnet doing Reiki. Like, kids and animals, could not stay away from you. And so I had been an animal advocate all my life. We lived in a house where people dumped animals off on the side of the road. My sisters and I, as little kids, used to go walk down to the animal shelter and visit the animals. And, we had a plan to break them all out and have a farm. So and I had no way of knowing like how I could ever work with animals or have a career with animals. And the second she said that, I was just off and running. And that's how it all started.
That's amazing. So in your experience as a healer, what have you learned about who animals are and what their role is on the planet? I mean, you talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, they're absolutely actively involved in healing the planet.
Right.
There's an amazing animal communicator who I love, Sandra Mendelson, and she has a Facebook page, and she writes a lot about their messages for the planet. They teach, but there also are a lot of ways that they hold down the energy. And I have been working with these animals at a big cat sanctuary in South Africa. And we work with them like every other Tuesday. And just yesterday, we were going to ask, who needed what support and what messages they had for their, caregivers. And they were like, no, this is for you guys. You guys are working so hard to support so many animals. They did a major healing on us, and my heart opened even so much more broadly. And they've been coming into my sessions. I worked with a client that was very depressed, almost suicidal last week. and one of the male lions, and I don't talk about their names because I want this to remain private, but he came in with the most beautiful, uplifting message for her. So, they'll do that. They'll come into my healing sessions, and um, every other week we do the big cat sanctuary. Every other week we pick an animal issue, like the Mustangs, which American people, whatever you hear is absolutely untrue. There are plenty of resources for Mustangs. They're brutally round up, many sent to slaughter, because they're letting all these cattle graze for free on public lands, and they're taking, and like in Nevada, the head of the Ranchers Association is on the board of the Wild Horse Management Agency. So, like we might do something for the Mustangs, or there are 2 jaguars at the sanctuary, and they wanted us to do something for Brazil and the lands and the animals there. And since we've been working with these cats, when we do a healing session for, or every other Tuesday, they come in, they share and send energy. They will volunteer. Like I was working with a really cat that has a tremendous amount of fear, and one of the cats came in to be his protector. We had an animal at a zoo that didn't really understand, who she was as a wild animal, because, she'd been in captivity her whole life. And one of the cats came in to mentor her and teach her about what it was to be that. So they are, they're not just holding down the energy, and are a tremendous source of unconditional love. They are actively healing the planet. They're helping to clear the lands. They're helping to clear and change people's hearts. And if you hear something about an animal and something that's going on, like, the rhinos are almost extinct, and orphan rhinos are like a major thing that's happening right now. Any of us can help. You don't have to be a healer. You can just sit down and really connect with your heart energy and send them love, because they're fighting for us. They're fighting for the planet, and they're fighting for their own survival. So, and I just have countless examples of when they came in and assisted, and they're very, very powerful.
Right. So what is the difference, but what are some differences and similarities between healing work for animals and humans?
Yeah, so actually there are more similarities than there are differences. So, both animals and humans are, have a lot of subconscious belief systems, like, let's say. And for example, there was a dog, Rally, that a friend of mine adopted from Taiwan, and they, loved her, and she was very traumatized, but they were about to, find another home for her because she had started growling at their young daughter. And when I worked with Rally, I heard a belief that children are dangerous. And she showed me, she had really been tormented by some kids when she was starving, and they would tease her with food and not give it to her. And she also showed me some kids like pulling her ears and whacking her and stuff. And so as soon as I released that belief that day, she was totally different with the daughter. So, as humans, we have those kinds of beliefs as well. So, they carry trauma just like we do. They carry inherited trauma just like we do. Like, greyhounds are, carrying trauma from all the generations of greyhound. So it's very, very, very similar. And then, in terms of some differences, animals are just a lot more sensitive to energy. I really pace myself a little differently. And I find that sometimes animals have actually, maxed out in a session sooner than a human might. But it's been interesting, because the longer I work with animals, that's starting to shift. But, they take on so much more stuff than we know because they are so much more sensitive, emotionally and, physically. They hear something, I tell my husband to turn down the stereo that's blasting because my cat can, hear it 1,000 times louder than, we can. But they're very much the same with emotions, and they're very much emotional sponges, just like, some humans are. They're empaths in a way. And so that's something I'm really conscious of when I'm working on them, what kind of things that they've taken on that aren't theirs. But, animals are the same, cognitively, they're just the same. And, physically, they're the same. They have livers, they have, the same glands of the, urinary tract or, reproductive tract, all those sort of things. So physically their structure is identical. There might be some slight differences in function, but they're more similar than they are different. And in terms of intelligence, we have this very anthropomorphic way of measuring intelligence, in the way that humans value intelligence. As a race in general, in this country at least, they don't, that intuition and all that stuff is not valued the same way. But people always ask me about the differences in intelligence, and I will tell you that I have had as profound a conversation with a housefly as I have had with an elephant.
Right, right. Do you believe in that we reincarnate as animals sometimes?
Absolutely.
I was just wondering about that. In my hypnosis work and in my spiritual work, but beyond the hypnosis, my belief is that we have been everything from a grain of
Absolutely.
sand to an entire planet and in between, and just energy. So of course we have been animals. And I've had a lot of people in their past life regressions, will one of their life experiences as an animal will come through. And the human the human lying here is usually extremely confused about that.
Absolutely.
But,
No, that's
but
so
I love
true.
it so much when it happens.
Oh, it's super fun. And yeah, and animals have been humans. I get asked a lot, like what my past life is with this animal. And yesterday I was doing a session. It was this little 8-year-old girl. It was the cutest thing. Her grandmother brought she and her dog over, to have a communication session for her. And this dog was her mother in another lifetime, her human mother. They were horses together in another lifetime. So yeah, that is absolutely 100% right on. And sometimes, I'll work with a horse or an animal that is having a great, either difficulty ambulating or grasping something you'd think that animal should know. And sometimes they'll explain that, well, this is my first lifetime as a horse. And so, they're learning the ropes still. So absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, because soul family is not always human. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
No. Oh, no.
So where do you do your work when people have or animals have sessions? Where do you have,
So if the animal is local, I will go to their homes. It just does not work for an animal to go in the car and go over to the healer's house.
Right.
Because, the second they're in the car, they're thinking veterinarian, whatever. And so I think it's really important for anyone out there that's working with animals is to work with the animal while they're in their own home, wherever they want to be in the house. Doesn't have to be on the Zoom or what have you. And then, I have a lot of international, I've got foster kittens in Tasmania, a dog in Dubai, so the bulk of my sessions take place over Zoom. And the interesting thing is animals are much more open to distance healing than people are, because they know it works. They know there's no separation, which is one of the animal communication works. It's important for them to be in their own home, however you make that work. And, I've gone out into the field with like a whole herd of horses and done some fun stuff like that as well. So, but
Yeah.
that was technically their home.
When I was working at the Dallas Psychic Fair, people would bring their animals in, and I didn't like it for the animals when they brought them
Yeah.
because I knew that they were so distracted by all the humans, by all of the different feelings and all of the voices they were hearing. And it was, to me, it was not productive.
Yeah, it really, really isn't. And then, a couple of times I've said, okay, come here. And, the first time I did that, she brought this client of mine brought a husky with her other dog. The husky took off. We spent an hour and a half looking for the husky.
Right, right.
Now,
Yeah.
and then, the dog, my cat was here and the dog was really uncomfortable with my cat. And so, I tried to share that with her, but it
Yeah.
really does. It works much better with them in their own home.
Yeah. So, what are some of the concerns that people bring their animals to you for? What is the biggest thing that they bring animals to you for?
The thing I do the most with, and I've become a specialist in this, is anxious and nervous animals. That is a huge one for people, and one in which, people really struggle to find out how to handle. I get ill animals. I get animals with behavioral challenges. They might be reactive. They might be peeing somewhere where their person, doesn't want them to pee or poop. By the way, when an animal does that, if it's generally in the peeing and pooping in the house is a message. They may have tried to communicate with you other ways, but you just didn't get it. And when they pee or poop on your side of the bed, your clothes, it's kind of like the guy that was having an affair, right? Then it's about you. And it may not be something negative. It may be that they want to tell you that, there's something you really need to pay attention to. So it's not necessarily that they're pissed off with you when they do that. But I do a lot of, medical stuff. So I really kind of excel in the physical realm as well as the emotional realm. Animal siblings not getting along together is a really big one that I get. Reactive aggressive dogs is another big one. I tend to get more dogs for behavioral stuff because it's a bigger deal when a dog bites than when a cat does, right? And really, it's important for people to understand when animals are, quote, reactive and aggressive. I really don't like those terms. Almost always when I work with them, it boils down to fear and a lack of confidence.
Right.
And that's one of the ways that I approach anxious animals. I mean, first, I work on, combating the overstimulation of their nervous systems. Then I work on grounding and relaxing. Then I work on, building courage or releasing trauma and all that. And then I focus on building courage and confidence. So, it's really a myriad of reasons. Also, I get a lot of people that, their animal is getting pretty close to transitioning. And they want to know, how does my animal feel? Do they want another round of chemotherapy? Are they, ready to pack it in, or, what is going on? Also, I get a lot of, animal communications for people that just want to understand their animal and their behavior more. And especially when an animal's behavior has changed, that's when people are more likely to give me a call.
So, so how do you approach an animal when doing a session?
Yeah. So, thanks for asking that question. I wanted to make sure that I addressed that because, if I'm sure a number of people listening to this are healers, and one of the big differences in between humans and animals is the approach. So first of all, ethically, you need their person's permission, but more importantly, you need the animal's permission.
Right.
It's very infrequently that they say no, but it does happen from time to time. And if that's the case and you're not asking or you're not aware of that, and you don't have to be a communicator, you can tell by the way your body feels if it's a yes or a no. Um, but it's traumatizing for them to do energy work when they don't want it and aren't expecting it. So it's asking their permission. But I also always, before a session's coming up, I reach out to them a few days before, or if I have time, like a week before, and I explain to them who I am, when we're working together, the reason why. And it's typically, your people want to find a way to support you with such and such. And also, I let them know that they're going to be a partner in the healing session. So many animals have things done to them without their control. And especially if you're working with nervous or anxious animals, then being in control, is such a huge survival instinct. So for example, when I do an animal communication, I will say, I let them open the floor. My clients are always, I ask the client first, but they're always willing to do it. And, half the time the animal ends up answering about half of my questions doing that. But then it's very clear to them, I'm not just going to be pulling information out of them, but this is an opportunity for them to speak, to share their knowledge and their wisdom, to have a voice in this whole thing. And, if I feel like an animal we might be getting close to them being done or whatever, I check in. So it's very important for them to be an active participant, to be aware of what's happening ahead of time and why it's happening. So thanks for asking that.
Yeah. So why would someone book a session with you?
Yeah. So we hit on that a little bit,
Yeah. Already. Yeah.
Yeah. I work with a lot of rescue animals, and, so obviously, healing trauma, but in terms of like the animal communication piece, it's it's about healing trauma, it's about addressing changes in behavior. And as I kind of alluded to before, behavioral issues are like the number one issue I get in animal communication. Also things like making decisions about, you're thinking about getting another dog. Well, is your dog or cat, ready for that? Are they having physical issues? Like right now I'm working with 3 cats with kidney disease. And the other thing that I do, in addition to the energy work, is I really spend a lot of time educating myself on topics like, I took a 24-hour summit on pet gut health, or allergies. I did into like a 25 session on that, and I have some really good either homeopathic or very natural products that I recommend. But definitely preparing them for life changes, and any emotional condition. The work I do and that most healers do is very powerful. Animals have emotional issues, and what I do, and I'm very clear about this with my clients, can never ever take the place of a veterinarian. However, where I come in for the most part is that vets they're focused and skilled on the physical stuff. When it comes to emotional issues, they have a tendency to give medication. And most medication, with a few notable exceptions, all it really does is mask the symptoms. It doesn't go into the underlying illness. So emotional stuff with animals is a lot of the stuff I deal with, separation anxiety, anxiety in general, things like that. And even with the physical conditions, the way I can help when you're working with a vet is that, every physical condition starts in the emotional body.
Right.
And so, you've got to release, that past life stuff, trapped emotions, anything on the emotional level that's really contributing to the illness. And a lot of those are belief systems as well. And that's something that, even wonderful vets can't get to. So,
Right. So you mentioned that you work with Reiki and Theta healing. Are those the two healing modalities that you use most with animals when you're working with them?
no. So I'm actually trained in 20 different modalities.
Okay. Okay.
And really what has developed, and one of the ones I really love for the physical stuff is called the body code.
I know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really awesome for that. So no, I'm trained in 20 different things. And my sessions tend to be a combination of whatever I'm guided to that's going to work best. And really the way I've been starting out my sessions the last year or two is, whatever your spiritual beliefs are, whatever your higher power, it's like, it's asking, in theta healing, we call God creator. And so, before I start a session, I say, creator, show me, tell me, the best way to support this animal. And I'll run energy or specifically around that. But the things that I've been getting since I've been trying to, that differ from me just doing this on my own, is like just really incredible, profound things that I never would have considered. And when I hear them, I'm like, oh my God, that's totally perfect. But yeah, it really varies. I, check in with my guidance. Also, what I feel like is doable for that particular animal. Reiki is an amazing modality. I tend to use Reiki more for group things because you can do it with groups, like my horse sanctuaries. I'll go out and, do Reiki with them because it's peaceful, it's gentle, it's relaxing, it releases trauma, it supports physical and emotional well-being on every single level. So that's more of a group animal thing that I do. Occasionally, if I have a really anxious animal, I might start with Reiki because it's so non-invasive that it just sets our relationship as like a positive, and Reiki's so gentle.
Right.
But no, I someday I've got to stop. I keep saying this is my last training.
Well, I call it my toolbox. And
Yeah, exactly.
we are all individuals, and what works for one doesn't work for everybody. And so I have a
Absolutely.
toolbox, and I do list the modalities on my website, but I don't really talk about them much when people contact me for the consultations, because it's like giving someone a menu,
Exactly.
a menu
Exactly.
that they have no idea what is this one?
Exactly.
And so you spend all your time explaining what this one, and then that's your whole hour
Yeah, it's
explaining what
exhausting. Yeah.
options they have. So
Yeah,
yeah, like you, I usually say, okay, what does this person need? What do you want
exactly.
me to start with? So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And yeah, when I first started, I had like, a theta healing session, a core expansion, a reconnective healing session. And it was just
right,
wild because like people didn't really understand, and so now I just have two services, deep energy healing for animals, deep energy healing for humans. And then I have the animal communication. I just explained that, it's a, yeah, it's
yeah, yeah.
complex.
So do you provide free consultations?
Yeah, I do actually. So, and just to clarify, so the consultation isn't, I'm not going to be communicating to your animal or whatever, but what the consultation is really about is, for an opportunity for the potential client to let me know what their goals are for their animals. And then I talk about how I might approach that. And so it's really more about understanding how I work, how I would approach something, and, is that a fit for you? And if not, that's fine. And, even in the consult, I provide a lot of, I provide coaching and tips and that sort of thing. One thing I just wanted to mention that I meant to talk about that I haven't, if it's okay if I just jump in here, is
Sure.
what our animals want from us. Our animals want us. They don't want to be with us while we're texting, multitasking. Those really what our animals want from us is to simply be present with them. Sit
Right.
with them. Like, with my cat, we have our little hour together in the evenings. And I'm such a type A person. Well, I'm a calm type A person. I'm a recovering type A person, but it's like she keep looking at me because I was like, okay, so I can do this for this, thinking, right? And so now really what I do is I spend an hour with her outside and I just am. We just be. And I've had a number of animals in my life teach us that. Teach me that. And they also want us to be, in general, less in our heads and more in our bodies.
Right. Right. My Jet is 100 and some pounds. And
Wow.
when he needs that attention, he will come and sit on me. Yeah, he'll come and lay on me or sit on me. And so that's my cue of, okay, pay attention.
Absolutely.
It's all about me right now, he says.
Exactly. And I this other cat that I talked about, Pookie, whenever I started getting up in my head, she would give me a dirty look. And, it's like, and it's such a gift to us, if you can go there for your animals, you will experience just unbelievable joy because you're being in the moment. I'll never
Right.
forget one time, oh God, I had taken on this extra commitment at work. I was working like 60 hours a week, and like it was a Friday night and I was driving home at like 8 o'clock. And I just was like, it's my life was just disappearing from my eyes. And I just decided to just let go. And I just rolled down the window a bit so I could really feel the air and just, even when I was driving, I just got very, very, very present. And oh my God, it just washed everything away and it brought me tremendous peace and also clarity about what I needed to do about this job.
Right.
But yeah, the gift of being, and that's who animals are. And that's who they know we are, but that we don't let ourselves be so much. And it's what they need from us more than anything.
Right. And so how does someone book a session with you? I am going to
Yeah.
put links on the podcast.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
will include links for you, but other than that, other than the
Yeah.
links that I'm going to provide for you, is there anything else that you wanted to share about that?
Yeah, so definitely, on my website, on the homepage, you can click book free consultation.
Right.
And you're going to have that, so I don't need to repeat it. But also, I did want to provide my phone number and my email address because I'm going to start to move away from a booking system and have clients book directly it's the way it is for now. And folks can still do that because, it's just hard not to have control over my calendar. Like, I think I can do something on Thursday, but all of a sudden somebody books the Thursday at 10 o'clock slot and I can't do that, So it just works for me better and it works for my clients better because if they have questions about the booking, then I can answer their questions. So my email, and my last name is spelled differently, is Cindie, CINDIE, at heartsonganimalhealing.com. And you can also I'm on PST, so please no 9 o'clock phone calls. It'll be 11 o'clock for me because I'm in bed at like 8. But it's area code 831-332-8464.
Okay. Well, thank you. I know a lot of people are going back to being more personal, since we've become so impersonal with this latest separation that we've taken on.
Absolutely.
But I personally, I get so many spam calls that I do not put my phone number on things.
Yeah.
But I do know a lot of people who give out their phone number because they want to be more personal.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. If, when that works, that's a great thing.
It is. And yeah, there's a lot of spam as well.
Mhm.
And so sometimes, always leave me a message, because sometimes I see this, spam risk because it's from this, area that I've never heard of, or so a lot of times I will wait to hear the message.
Right.
To be sure it's a human calling, because there are people that are merciless that want to call
Yes.
every day.
Yes, they are.
Different phone numbers to call from, but I really like connect, then they're not on my website. Of course, my website's kind of fun to look at and you can find out more, but they're not there going, oh my God, what the heck do I do? It's like, we can work that out right away. So
yeah. What I'm gonna I actually, not me. So you were talking about automated systems, automated booking systems. And so I got automatically booked back to back for the podcast.
Oh, no.
And so, unless there's something that you want, some little bit minute tidbit that you want to share with us, I am going to prepare to close.
Let's do that. Yeah, exactly. My point exactly. Although they're not supposed to duplicate book, but hey.
Yeah, there should have been like 15 minutes in between.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that I have that in there, but yeah, for some reason it was like 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Yeah.
So. I feel your pain. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for listening. Thanks, Patricia. And I love what I do. Book a consultation. There's got nothing to lose. If you're in the Santa Cruz County area, I'm teaching an animal Reiki class at a horse sanctuary, June 24th and 25th, and that's on my website as well.
And I meant to ask you about your classes because
yeah.
And so so people could actually how long is the class?
Okay, so this particular class is an in-person class. It's 2 days, 10 o'clock to 3:30 both days, but I teach, usually when people are interested, I'll put a class together. I teach like a bonding with animals class. It's super fun. I teach a class about working with, nervous, anxious animals. So I have other classes that I teach, and I don't teach them all the time, but I probably teach them a couple times a year, or if somebody's interested, then I'll just kind of put the word out. Hey, anybody else want to take this particular class? So.
And are any of them on Zoom?
They're all, the Reiki is the only thing I teach in person.
Okay.
At some point I might be doing Reiki online, but it's just not the same. But yeah,
right.
those are Zoom. So I've had people from all over attend those classes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to join us, and for bringing your gift with you, and your knowledge, and your offering to the world, to the animals. Thank you so much for what it is that you do, what you offer. And I will put your links, your phone number and your email also on the podcast. There's a little information that people can click on, and your photo is there.
Awesome.
So it will be there, and I'll send you the link so that you can share it with your people.
Awesome.
But thank you so much for joining us, and thank everybody for joining the podcast, and for listening to them, and for being willing to be present And please hit follow so that you get notices when there's a new podcast that's loaded up, and consider being a patron as well, because it helps me to support this podcast and other work that I do. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much,
So
Cindie.
welcome. This was
I'm
fun.
going to close
Okay.
the recording, but don't hang up yet.
Okay.